Hello and welcome to another episode of The Electric Innovation. I'm Mats. So, it's that time of the year again. It's buying a new car time of the year again. This is a Model S 2018, a Model S 100D. It's not a Raven, sadly. A few days after, day after I bought this, a Raven come on sale, even cheaper than this, but that's life. Can't always get what you want. It's typical of the S's. It's an all S's really. It's better than the previous one. I had the green one. It's spacious, huge, lots of space for stuff. And got the Raven update in 2019. Gave you the new air suspension. This doesn't have that. This has the old kind of air suspension setup. So it has a few. The front is much smaller because under here you also have the HEPA filter and things like that. But it's still deep and wide, quite spacious. So it's a long range test. It's not forward. It's not a performance, but it still does no 200 kilometers in around 4.3 seconds or something. So it's plenty quick. Because it gets the nice Alcantara inlays here. No door pockets. You lose those. You lose the ventilated seats. This is proper leather seats, mind you, though. I think this is just before they got the Alcantara. No, before they got the fake leather plastic seats. You have the next gen instruments here, which is nice. After all, screen with it works, quick, nice, spacious. Plenty of space down here as well. It is a problem, the pros and cons of a Model S versus a new Model 3. Next gen seats, really comfortable to sit in. There's not that much between this and a new Model S, really. It's not. Of course. Let's head out, huh? A fully charged car, more or less. This is 99%. And it indicates on the energy graph a bit under 400 kilometers. Of course, this is a long range, so it has the more efficient front motor. It doesn't have the even more efficient front motor of the Raven, which is of course sad, because it didn't inherit a few parts from the Model 3. But it's quieter than the 2014 model I had, and it also has just a lot of improvements. In fact, my Model 3 and this is not that far off when it comes to refinement and noise levels, which says probably more about the Model S. And in some cases, the high frequency passive dampers of the Model 3 and also of the Model Y is even better than this air suspension setup, which in some situations can be a little bit too stiff on initial damping. This one rides on 19s, 245 19s, Michelin tires. It's a huge battery pack. This, I think it was when new 95 kilowatt hours usable, and a home charge like we have, which only gives you around 7.5 kilowatt, which is perfectly fine, but to fully charge this takes eons. Even on that, then you really notice how much bigger this is. You can measure the difference in hours. Because the range in this car with a massive battery and my Model 3 with a 40% smaller battery is about the same, in fact. when it comes to grip levels and power figures, of course, it's a different story. This has around 550 horsepower and it quotes 900 Newton meters. I don't know where you measured that. That must be the input of the input shaft, the output shaft of the motors or something. It doesn't really matter. It has a massive amount of torque, and it's quick. It's properly quick. It's of course not as efficient as a Model Y or a Model 3, and not as efficient as a new facelifted Model S either, but simply because it doesn't, mostly because it doesn't have a heat pump. But still, if you take an efficiency of somewhere between 200 and 250 watt hours, okay, that gives you somewhere between 450, 500 kilometers of range, which is perfectly adequate. And also, because this one, when new, was very expensive, it has everything: full hi-fi package, winter package, full autopilot package with lane change, which I haven't had in years, and salmon and everything. I must admit, it's quite sweet to have that. And even now the lane change has improved massively as well over time. Last time I had it, it was quite slow. There's some tire noise in here. It's not that bad. Not at all. You can live with it. This is on a rough part of the road as well. On newer asphalt, this one is fairly quiet, in fact. Some tire noise. No, some wind noise, of course. The single pane glass all over the car. But all in all, it's not that bad. It's a windy day now. Sound system is very good. It was always very good in the Model S's. So why did I buy a Model S? Why not something else? Why just keep the Model 3? Because I absolutely adore that car for its efficiency and for its size and everything, and space utilization. And in some ways this car has less space utilization. For instance, you have no space under the armrest. You have no inductive phone charging. You have no door pockets. You have no armrest in the rear seat. Which is true. You regress in some things and you gain in others. Well, it was slightly by happen chance. I was actually not really intending to sell a Model 3 at all. I was just putting it for sale for fun, and then someone contacted me and said, well, okay, why not? And then I hinted the car, and then this came along. And I always wanted a red Model S, because I always found them to be very, very beautiful. This is a 15-year-old design now, and it still stands quite nicely on its own. I was also thinking about maybe I used Hyundai Ioniq 5, for instance, but I couldn't quite raise the funds to get there. Otherwise, I quite probably would have attempted one. So that's sort of how it happened. And no, I don't know how long I will keep it. But at least I will probably join us in the summer for our trip down into the continent. Of course, as you can see here, that's some pictures. You have the instrumentation. It's I sometimes miss the old cars, the old Model S instruments, but these are quite nice as well. You have the trip computer up there. You have your battery. You have your classic car instrumentation, and you have your stalks, of course. You have a lot of stalks here. You have a gear lever on the right side, and then you have your multi-stalk for the washers and the wipers, and also the indicator. Under that you have your cruise control stalk for the autopilot and adaptive cruise, and then you have a smaller stalk for the adjustability, the electric steering wheel adjustability. Think of them on Mercedes, nicely weighted, tactile, and very, very nice to use indeed. There is no matrix LED lights on this car. It just doesn't exist. I think they are xenons. I'm not entirely certain. I haven't tried them in the darkness yet. But they're definitely better than the old Model S, because those lights were truly awful. I know I can get the car to go under 200 watt hours because I've done it. So I think it had one new rated efficiency of around 195 or something watt hours per kilometer, which isn't exactly groundbreaking, but considering this car doesn't have a heat pump and it has the slightly less efficient motors, particularly considering what you got out of the Raven, well, it's not too bad at all. You particularly notice the wind noise in this car, not so much the tire noise, most of the wind. That's where the double pane glass comes in too, of course. You don't have that, so you have to live with that. I'm afraid I paid around 33,500 euros for this, which is perfectly fine. Of course, this is owned by an older gentleman. It's done now 74,843 kilometers, so basically done nothing, considering it's 7 years old or thereabout. We now have quite many older Model S's running around in the world, and also particularly in Norway, because Norway was for many years outside of California Tesla's biggest market, and we have very little problems with them. There is some suspension parts and some things going, but most of that's been sorted out, and parts are not that expensive either. So I must say, and space utilization is of course massive in this car. We all know how efficient Model S's. It's not the only thing that has more space than this is a Lucid. Really, there's plenty of good Japanese cars out there. They don't have the space utilization. I mean, there's plenty of good Chinese cars out there. They don't have the space utilization of this. BMW doesn't, not even close. And even if the trunk has shrunk quite a lot, well, it's still there, and it's still quite spacious. It's also very wide. It has a carbon fiber interior, the same as my previous car had. A little bit, my previous car was an actual performance. It was an 85 performance. This isn't, but this is much quicker and much more refined in many ways, and you can feel the improvements Tesla does over time to its cars, of course. Also, it has 5G LTE, which is something Tesla goes and just updated all their cars with. So we don't lose connectivity, we don't lose anything of that. The only thing that's wrong with it, as far as I know, is that the button for the voice control doesn't work, which is ever so slightly annoying. Kick it, and everything goes flying, of course, because, yeah. And there is some steering feel coming through, and even if it's not BMW i4 levels of driving, you can hustle this thing down the road quite nicely. The interior feels nice. It is quite spacious, even if you do miss the door pockets and things like that, of course. And now you get some speed up, but a lot actually, and you're hustling down the road. Well, you do. The car handles its weight rather nicely. You can place it relatively accurately, really. So, well, what's next? Well, the next thing is to try to get the Porsche out on the road again, of course. I miss a few tiny little pieces to make it work. We'll get there. But next car, well, I don't know. I'm waiting. I have many options now. But I think maybe I will wait and see what happens to the price of the updated Palladium S's. If they fall fast, I might consider one of those in a few years' time. Because this one, with this huge battery pack, you don't really... Okay, fine, it doesn't have 250 kilowatts charging. It only has around 150, which is where the V2 chargers kind of peaked at. So, and with a big battery pack, that might feel like, oh, you're copping out. But I think it'll do quite nice, really. And, well, we'll find out, won't we? Around 5,000 kilometers this summer. I'm curious, of course, to see how this rear seat will fit our long-legged teenage friend. But actually, space utilization in the back isn't as bad as you might think. I sit back there quite nicely. So, the effortless power of this, and it's a big saloon as well, where the Model 3 is smaller and sportier, then this has kind of the more different feel to the entire car. So with a bit of music on, you can there's an enjoyment to be had here that's different from the Model 3 and very different from the Model Y, even though both are very, very much more modern cars in many ways and much smarter packaged, and you have, you know, yeah, there is something with this. It's big and it's wide, and it's kind of what we call in Norway, where it's an American car. It's big and wide, and that's kind of what you get. And it's big, wide, and powerful as well. There you have it. That's my new car. Maybe I should just put the sunroof in vent mode and just cruise back home again. It could be maybe not too bad after all. It's a beautiful day out. It's 8 degrees. It's closer to 15 degrees really out in the sun. Spring is here, and it really is time to get the Porsche out. I'm working on that. Of course, keep you updated. But I think that's it for now. I'm sorry for the state of the window. It is an old Model S, so it has old Model S treats, like for instance window wipers that are mediocre, but that's life. So, hope you enjoyed the spring. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in another video. Take care. Goodbye.